Welcome back to Webcertain TV. I'm Gemma Houghton. Today my guest is Philly Visa from searchbrothers.com, and we're going to be talking about HTTPS and how and why to migrate to it. Hi Philly, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So there is a lot of talk around it now. There's a lot of businesses thinking about and moving to HTTPS. What are the key reasons why, if you're not already doing it, you should be?
You should absolutely be doing it, especially if you have a form on your website. Starting from October this year, that's 2017, Google Chrome will actually start showing warnings for different form fields as your site not being secure. Now, this will over time change into every website on HTTP being marked as not secure within the browser. I would even not put it beyond Google to also experiment potentially within Google Search Console, search results over time, not maybe right now, maybe they don't do it after I now say it, but maybe they will do it after I say it in a moment, and that is to add labels to search results when they're not secure. Yeah. Once the majority of websites have migrated to HTTPS, this might actually happen.
Yeah.
It is a possibility. So there's a good reason why we want to move. A lot of people see moving is because of security and privacy. It isn't actually. Although those are benefits as well.
Yeah.
It is really more about also page speed and other things.
Yeah, because I think a lot of businesses that are maybe dealing with a lot of important private data may be thinking about it, but other websites that don't have thought it's not so important. But actually, the point is it is, because you're going to be big flag up against your name to say this site isn't secure. Yeah. Which I think is interesting, because at the moment there's a lot of people probably thinking, well, digital people understand HTTPS, but normal users wouldn't have a clue, which is probably fine. But yeah, once there's a big glaring red mark next to your name, they're going to start to notice it.
They will. They most definitely will. There is, however, a downside with HTTPS, and that's something that a lot of people are not talking about, even in the industry, and that is that it is actually going against the nature of the internet. Because your site doesn't need to be on an HTTPS protocol to be secure. Everything that comes with HTTPS, with certificates and all that kind of stuff, can be done on HTTP. So it breaks links, which is kind of counterproductive of how the web works. Yeah. Tim Berners-Lee actually did a commentary on this particular topic, and he was at that time, this was shortly after Google announced everything HTTPS in 2014. He actually wrote a commentary saying, like, this is not a good idea because it's not needed. We're breaking URLs.
Yeah, which isn't
it's
something any SEO wants to hear.
No, that's the downside, and that's something you have to keep in mind when moving.
Yeah. So obviously it is quite a big thing to move to. It needs quite a lot of preparation. It needs quite a lot of thought. What are the kind of common mistakes that you've come across that businesses are making when they're making this switch?
So I've come across a number of mistakes. A lot of them are around certificates, like not having the right certificate, self-signed certificates, for example, or using certificates from old certificates from not trusted or not trusted anymore certificate authorities, Symantec brands, and that includes GeoTrust, Thork, I believe, Rapid SSL, stuff like that. Chrome has actually said also, the Chrome developers, like, we're going to stop trusting the old certificates and we're going to completely block them as, mark them as not secure, basically. If you have a multi-year SSL certificate from any of the Symantec brands, and you want to double check that if you do, then you may want to update that sooner than later. So on top of that, one of the other common mistakes I see is also broken chains. So that means incomplete certificates. So the root certificate isn't included with the actual certificate. It's a very common mistake as well. I would recommend to really check your SSL certificate setup. There's multiple different tools out there that do this for free for you, and I would highly recommend testing it.
Yeah, because it's a lot of effort to go to do the whole migration if actually the certificate's out of date in the first place. It's not really worth all the effort.
No, you won't reap the benefits.
And then there are, several stages to any migration. There's the kind of pre-migration and the planning, then there's the actual moving itself, and then there's the post. So there's these phases that all require careful planning and careful consideration. What are the most important things to think about firstly when you're about to start, so before you go into it and you're in the planning stage?
There's absolutely a lot of things that you need to think about, and it's very important to keep in mind that different teams within the organization may have different goals. So the IT team wouldn't care about SEO, but the marketing team does.
Yeah.
And from an HTTPS perspective, moving to HTTPS, we really need to look at both. Technical challenges do need to be tackled by the IT team, but you do not want to suffer from an SEO perspective. So from a marketing perspective, you do need to really plan ahead. It's best, one of the common best practices I've seen is to copy your entire site to a subdomain that you also make no index, so Google can't use it at that point, or you block it with robots.txt, one of those two things. And you put the content there, you make sure that that runs on HTTPS, you then start putting updating all the content and putting all the things there that you need to put there, and you basically test everything before you then actually start doing
things on the live side.
Yeah, the move. The move would involve creating redirection rules, testing those, and then also pushing them live. But you can obviously only do that once you have the site live. And then at the end of it, once you have moved, it will be like the move itself will literally be probably 1 or 2 hours, because that's waiting for things to update, and you pull switch, and from that moment on,
everything.
The other site is supposed to be the primary site. Until that moment happens, you're still in preparation. At that moment, you're testing if everything goes well. After that, you're pretty much focused on fixing any issue that comes up immediately, but also long term, you want to keep an eye on your log files. You want to add, you want to do a lot of things. You want to add different URLs to your social profiles and stuff like that. You want to update these things. So yeah, these are all things you need to do. I actually wrote a guide about this, which is about 11,000 words, specifically aimed at how to migrate from HTTP to HTTPS from an SEO perspective. So, which I'm sure you can share.
Yeah, absolutely. We can put the link below the video.
Perfect. But yeah, so and then at the end of it, it's important to monitor all changes. Also contact your most important business partners and stuff like that, people that link to you, to ask them to update the link to HTTPS.
Okay, so that's actually a key part that I think would clearly be forgotten, because the redirects are in place. But it's actually, you really want that link changing. If you
do want that link changed for a number of reasons. One of the reasons being also crawl budget. If every link out there on the web is pointing to an HTTP pattern, which then redirects to an HTTPS pattern, that's something you want to update. Now, once you're also done with the move to HTTPS, you also want to see if you can upgrade your server infrastructure. For example, add HTTP2. Not adding HTTP2 is really shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to migration to HTTPS, because that's one of the biggest benefits of HTTPS. It isn't necessarily security or privacy, although those, again, are bonuses and good add-ons, but it's really about speed in this case. So, and with that, you may also want to consider, if you have moved everything of HTTP to HTTPS, which ideally you should have, you may also want to consider preloading HSTS. So that's a security header, add that to your website, and then submit a request with the Chrome team on hstspreload.org to basically get your website whitelisted for preloading, which means that your website will default in all the browsers that use that default that use that list. Which, by the way, is manually updated. So browser update is needed before that is in effect. It's also hard to get off. Keep that in mind. But once you're on there, browsers will default. If someone types in your domain name without protocol, it will default to the HTTPS version instead of the HTTP version, and potentially shave off several hundred milliseconds of trying to connect to your server. Yeah,
and every millisecond counts, as we know.
Absolutely. So, yes.
And from an international point of view, because obviously a lot of international sites they're big, they're quite complicated. There are different language versions, multiple different language versions of the site. Are there any extra things to be aware of, or any particular challenges for international sites when doing this kind of migration?
Yeah, for international sites, it's very important, and any big site for that matter as well, but especially if you're multiple sites, and that's often the case with international, don't forget to update your hreflang annotations, as well as your sitemaps, if you have it in there, and update your sitemaps to have the HTTPS patterns. Make sure that you update all the social profiles of all the international websites, because you may have more than one, to update these as well. One of the other things you also should not forget to do is add the HTTPS versions to Google Search Console, to make sure that you have both of them, both the HTTP and the HTTPS versions of each international site in there. Now, once you've done that, you may actually want to group this also within a property set within Google Search Console.
Okay.
So you can have property sets for languages or for country or for regions or for, say, the whole of Europe, and then basically have aggregated data that way. Now, this is something you can do very well with international websites, but you need to do it.
Yeah.
And canonicals, don't forget canonicals also. Very important.
So yeah, the actual work, there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done across the international site just to verify and check, really, to make sure that all of these things have been updated and across all of the languages. Otherwise, again, you're going to lose the value that you gain from moving to the HTTPS.
Yes.
And how do you think by October time, what do you imagine seeing? Do you think we're going to see the majority of websites on HTTPS, or do you think there's still quite a long way to go?
There's still quite a long way to go. We're at the moment, according to, if we look at the HTTP archive, the top 1,000, about 60% has moved, 61% or so. So we're still a little bit off. But we're beyond 50. Also, if you look at Firefox traffic, pages loaded in Firefox on HTTPS, that tends to be also around 60% at the moment. So we're still a bit off. I don't think in a month's time everyone suddenly moves. No. And to be very honest, and this also applies to international websites, you may not want it directly, despite the warning in Chrome. And there's two reasons for it. One, with international websites, you may want to do a test case first, where you move one website, a smaller one, so you can test the setup before actually doing the important parts of the. And depending on when you're, like some websites, they have seasonal trends, or like they're more seasonal, where they go for holiday or that kind of travel type of thing, and they tend to be more popular in Q1, Q2 than they tend to be in Q3 or Q4. So with that in mind, you may still have 2 additional months till the end of the year before you make that move. Now, the second reason why you also may want to wait is you may want to have an SEO audit done as quickly as possible. That means within the next month or two. And before the end of the year, have an SEO audit done, have a team ready to implement the SEO changes. And then once you've done that audit and once you've implemented the changes recommended by the specialist, then you want to look at moving to HTTPS.
Don't move a site that's got a lot of issues and then
exactly. If you move a site that has a lot of issues, you're just moving it to the HTTPS part. But here's the thing, and this is something that a lot of people don't talk about, and that's really a big bonus for anyone who hasn't moved to HTTPS yet and has SEO issues. And that is, Google has to recrawl your website. Now, normally, Google tends to take a long time, depending on your site signals. It can take a long time before Google recrawls your website. However, with the move to HTTPS, Google actually speeds that process up one time. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in a way.
So don't give them a load of rubbish to see.
Exactly.
Make sure,
this is a one-time opportunity to get your site reevaluated and fix the SEO issues before that, and have Google pick up that and not have to wait months for any SEO things to be picked up. Now, depending on the size of your website, etc., there's a number of other factors, obviously, as well, I have to say. But it's really a big opportunity right now to fix the SEO issues. So have an audit done, make sure that you're good, fix the issues as soon as possible. Make sure you have the manpower internally planned after the audit to implement that. And then after that, make sure that you then move to HTTPS so that Google can pick up on the new signals.
That is definitely a very good tip, and something I'm sure many people will be thinking about how they can implement it. So thanks very much for sharing all of that today.
No problem. Thank you very much.